Using crafts as a creative process. Hi, I'm Louise Fouché from OTGrow. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Those of you that have not yet subscribed and pressed the notification button, please do so. So we're in the middle of our series on using crafts in groups, and I'd hate for you to miss any of this. So those of you that have, please go back and have a look at our playlist to have a look at the whole series. And those of you that have, please make sure you've got the notification button to keep on following us and being notified when we have the last two parts of the series coming out. All right, so we've spoken from the introductory. We say we keep asking ourselves three questions when we use crafts. The one is there an intervention? In other words, it's different than if my mother or father or somebody else happened to be doing this craft in their workshop where there's no therapeutic intervention. Where is my therapeutic intervention happening? The second question we ask ourselves is if we are doing this in groups, where is the group intervention? Where are we using the whole or the idea of a collective, that this isn't just me on my own doing a craft and I happen to be in the same room with everybody else doing a craft as well? Where is that group feeling, that group facilitation, cohesion, feeling of universality, imparting of information, the curative factors that Yalom gives us. And lastly is, what is the goal I'm trying to achieve? In other words, we don't choose the craft for the craft's sake. I'm always trying to achieve something, and then I select the craft that matches that. All right. So today we are talking about using crafts as a creative process. And here I want to put on my MPO hat as a facilitator for the More Than team. And here we use group intervention as part of a process of empowering leaders and community members to enable them to have a sense of agency and to bring changes not only in their own lives, but in their communities. And so we facilitate a process of healing, dreaming, innovating. And all of those elements we try to represent within the groups that we facilitate. Now, in this program, one of the elements we facilitate is what we call a creative process. And the creative process from a therapeutic background has its foundation in the model of creative ability. And so we are trying to facilitate a creative process in which the principles of creative ability is facilitated and brought to life. And so it's more a model that we are facilitating, one in which people's drives are increased. And what I have found from my own experience is that when we have people on passive participation, their drive is often very fragile. They are so worried about their self-esteem. They realize they have now an idea of what norms are and how it should be fulfilled, and yet sometimes they fall short of the mark. And so they have this hesitancy, this self-doubt. Their self-esteem is low and fragile because they don't know if they're going to be able to fulfill these norms, being very aware that there are norms that need to be fulfilled. And so what we've seen is that group intervention is the intervention of choice for our passive participation clients, particularly. It's almost as if they are then able to plug into something bigger than themselves, like they can draw energy or draw drive from a group in which their own drive sometimes is not so consistent yet. And it's if the group helps them along, the group encourages them to overcome the self-esteem and self-doubt problems that they have, and holds them and helps them to refine where they are not able to fulfill the norm. So it's to understand that when we in this group and community participation facilitate a creative process, it sounds a little bit like what we would do with what we discussed in part 4, where we're using a craft project to facilitate a team process. Except now we are really digging deeper into the creative ability model. And so we would give them an option again to choose a project that they want to do. And what's important for us here is that it's a project that feels too big for them. And so we would encourage something a bit bigger than what they think they can achieve. And it is having it's not just in size bigger, but in the what it requires of me. How I need to orientate and arrive in this project requires more of me than if it was just a small project. We also do it that it's normally for somebody to be given to somebody, and that the group will then present it on their last day for whoever they've made it for. And it's just amazing what our clients have come up with. We had our Remembering Our Heroes, which we did with people that are homeless and in a shelter. They made a massive mosaic for the MPO that presented this opportunity for them, and they made use of mosaics. And what was just so incredible in this project is, apart from the fact that it was stunningly beautiful, with this mirror in the middle that was eventually donated and is actually hanging in APD's foyer for anybody to see. Apart from that, is that you could see so beautifully, because the group was promised, if they finished their big mirror, mosaic mirror, on time, they would still be able to have time to make a small little coaster for their own mosaic that they can take home. And there it is flabbergasting to actually see the difference, how poorer quality the individual is compared to the group where everybody sat together and people would help each other when they struggled or when they saw that something was lacking. They would overlap with each other and stand in for each other. And the facilitator is there not only to help them through the different steps that they need to do and to be the person that comes with the know-how, but also when these doubts arise, or when the group seems to have left somebody behind, to make them aware, to include that person in the process, to push them a little bit when they feel like giving up, and to then at the end of the day make place to, let's just have a look at what happened in today's group. What were some of our highlights? What could we have done better? What are we going to be doing intentionally tomorrow to really up our game in this creative process? And I'd like to give you some more ideas of what our clients have come up with. One of them actually made a coffee table and then did wood burning on the coffee table and varnished it. And they are given a 5-day process, sometimes 6 days, but the majority of times 5 days. And it can be 5 days, as in once a week for 5 or 6 weeks, or it can be 5 consecutive days. It depends on how your project is run and if it's in the community, how much time is available. The other projects, one group decided they wanted to make compassion blankets for everybody in the community they felt weren't seen or heard or needed some extra compassion. And some of them learned how to knit. It's amazing. And then because it was spread over weeks, they took their knitting home and they knit on their own. And then everybody would ask questions, and the sense of belonging to this group would just encourage them to stick through the process and to have the drive. And then they would come back to the group again and work again with the facilitator and go home and have time on their own. And so the compassion blankets was so moving when they actually went to all the community members and gave these members that they had selected, the whole group going together to hand one blanket to each person that was selected. And what an incredibly powerful, beautiful experience that was. Yeah, so there's some more examples. I'm trying to think. The one was also a signboard that was given to MPO that they were associated with. The others was a group did a play for preschool children to tell them that they are unique. And it had a little story about a little frog that climbed this pole, and he was half deaf and didn't hear people breaking him down. And they wanted the preschool children to understand not to always listen and to hold yourself deft when people are not encouraging you. And they all dressed up as little frogs and did this play. It was just so beautiful. And so again, I want you to get a sense of how everything is put together around a craft that we are using. But it's not just a little mosaic coaster that we're doing. There are so many more elements that are brought into it. There's the group intervention. There's specific intervention as the facilitators coming in and out, holding the group, facilitating elements, the sense of belonging. the awareness. How did we work together as a group? What do we intentionally want to do tomorrow? And so to also see how the goal is being achieved of we are increasing everybody in the group's drive and leaning into the model of creative ability, that at the end of the day, it translates into a community that feels empowered, that feels they're able to do more than what they thought they could. All right, I hope that has just gotten you so excited and your creative juices flowing to think of all the different places where you can try and implement this. And again, I hope you hear that this does not just have to belong into a mental health clinic where there's a small group. It can be on your outpatient basis, can be in communities. There are just so many possibilities for this. I hope that's getting you thinking about ways that you could be implementing this. All right, and then I will see you next week for our last part of this series. In the meantime, happy facilitation.